It all began on an ordinary evening, the kind of evening where you believe life is stable and predictable. I was standing in the kitchen, preparing dinner, humming to myself while the smell of garlic and onions filled the air. My husband, Daniel, had texted earlier that he was working late. Again, that wasn't unusual. He was a manager at a big company and often stayed longer than expected. I didn't complain. I believed he was working hard for our future, for our comfort, and for the family we had dreamed about. But something felt different that night. It was a small thing, really. He had typed, "Working late. Don't wait up." The words were simple, but they didn't feel like his usual messages. Normally, he would add a heart emoji or say something playful, like, "Save me some of your delicious food." That evening, his message was cold, almost businesslike. My heart caught on to that difference, though my mind told me not to over. I set the table, placed 2 plates, then removed one, reminding myself he wouldn't be home for dinner. I sat down alone, my fork scraping against the plate, my thoughts wandering more than usual. For the first time in our 5 years of marriage, I wondered if something was wrong. But I pushed it aside, telling myself it was just stress. The next few weeks were full of similar nights. Late hours, excuses about meetings, phone calls he took in the other room, his sudden need to guard his phone like it was gold. My instincts whispered louder each day, but I silenced them. I told myself, "You're just being insecure. He loves you. Don't be paranoid." After all, Daniel was charming, attentive in his own way, and had always made me feel safe. But then, one night, my whole world cracked open. It was a Friday. He had promised to come home early so we could finally spend time together. I was excited, even wore his favorite dress, cooked his favorite pasta, and lit candles on the table. Hours passed. No Daniel. My calls went unanswered. Around midnight, I finally gave up and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to swallow the ache in my chest. That's when his phone buzzed on the dresser. He had left it at home. My hand trembled as I picked it up. I told myself not to look. I told myself I trusted him. But the screen lit up, and the message was impossible to ignore. "I had such a great time tonight. Can't wait to see you again. Love you." My heart dropped so hard I thought it would never rise again. The name on the message was Emma. I knew the name his coworker. He had mentioned her casually before, always with respect, never with suspicion. But now her words were glowing on his screen, stabbing me over and over again. Tears blurred my eyes. My chest burned. I felt like the floor under me had disappeared, and I was falling endlessly. I stayed awake until he came home at 2 in the morning, his tie loose, his shirt smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. He smiled when he saw me awake, but his smile faded when he noticed the phone in my hand. He didn't even try to lie at first. He just stood there, frozen, his mouth opening and closing like he was searching for words. Finally, he whispered, "It's not what you think." But I had already seen everything. The messages, the pictures, the plans for secret meetings. My trust shattered into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't even scream. I just sat there, silent, with tears rolling down my face. He reached for me, but I pulled away. That night, something inside me broke, but at the same time, something stronger began to grow. The days after that were the darkest of my life. I felt betrayed, worthless, humiliated. I asked myself over and over, why wasn't I enough? Why did he need someone else? But slowly, through the pain, anger began to rise. Anger that he had lied to me. Anger that he thought I would stay silent, that I would forgive and forget. No, I decided I would not cry forever. I would not beg him to stay. Instead, I would rise, and I would take my revenge not with violence, not with screaming, but with intelligence, patience, and strength. I started planning, quietly, secretly. He had taken my trust and broken it. But I would take his pride and his ego and shatter them. Revenge wasn't just about hurting him. It was about showing him that I was not weak, that I could stand taller than ever without him. And so, I began. That night I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to believe the man I trusted had betrayed me. But instead of breaking down, I made a decision. I would not beg or cry. I would rise, and I would take my revenge with patience and strength. In the days that followed, I played the role of a calm wife while quietly planning. I started collecting proof messages, receipts, photos, anything that showed his lies. Each piece of evidence made me stronger. At the same time, I worked on myself. I began running in the mornings, reading again, and even picked up new hobbies. I wanted to remind myself that I was more than his wife. I was a whole person on my own. Then came the turning point. I drafted an email to his company's HR department, attaching all the evidence I had. No drama, no screaming, just facts. When the investigation began, Daniel's confidence collapsed. He came home nervous, angry, and ashamed. For the first time, he realized I wasn't the weak woman he thought I was. But my revenge wasn't just about exposing him. It was about building a life without him. I moved into a small apartment, decorated it the way I wanted, and started fresh. Slowly, the pain turned into strength. I laughed again, made new friends, and even spoke to groups of women about my story. When strangers told me my courage inspired them to leave toxic relationships, I knew I had truly won. Daniel eventually left the city, but by then I didn't care. My revenge was complete not because I destroyed him, but because I rebuilt myself stronger, wiser, and happier. And that was the sweetest victory of all. Vocabulary from the story. Betrayal. The act of being disloyal or breaking someone's trust. Shattered, broken into many pieces. Often used to describe deep emotional pain. Humiliated, made to feel ashamed or embarrassed in front of others. Evidence, facts or information that proves something is true. Methodical, done in a careful and organized way. Guarded, careful, protective, not open or relaxed. Withdrew, withdrawn, pulled back. Distant, not open. Vindication, proving that you were right or justified. Boundaries, limits you set to protect your feelings and personal space. Neutral, not taking sides, not full of strong feelings. Temptation, a strong desire to do something you know you should not do. Resentment, anger you feel when someone treats you unfairly. Liberation, freedom from control, pain, or restrictions. Settlement, an official agreement to end a conflict or case. Accountable, responsible for your actions. Needing to explain them. Ceremonies, small or big events done to mark something important. Reclaimed, took back something that was lost. Forgiveness, the act of letting go of anger. Toward someone who hurt you. Hollow, empty inside. Can describe both objects and feelings. Resilience, the ability to recover quickly after difficulties or problems.